There's a silence that scares people more than shouting, blocking, or begging. It's the silence of a man who finally walks away. Because when you ignore a woman who hurt you, something shifts inside her. Ego, control, curiosity, all of it begins to break. And if you've ever been lied to, disrespected, or taken for granted, don't scroll. Hit subscribe, because this is where men stop getting played, stop chasing the wrong people, and start understanding their real worth. Now listen carefully. Here's what really happens when you ignore a woman who hurt you. When a woman hurts you, most people expect you to react. They expect anger, explanations, arguments, emotional outbursts, or at least some attempt to make her understand what she did. But when you choose silence instead, something very different happens. Her ego takes a hit she never saw coming. Because silence is not weakness. It is confrontation without noise. And the moment she realizes you're not chasing, not explaining, not defending yourself, a psychological shift begins. Suddenly, the power she thought she had loses its grip. She was prepared for a fight. She was ready for drama. She was waiting for you to try to fix things. What she wasn't prepared for was you walking away without a word. That's when the reality check hits. Ignoring someone who disrespected you forces them to sit alone with their behavior. No distraction, no validation, no argument to twist, no attention to feed on, just silence. Silence becomes the mirror she can't escape. And every time she looks at her phone, every time she expects a message that never comes, every time she checks if you viewed her story or reacted to her post, your silence speaks louder than anything you could have said. It's not about being petty or proving a point. It's about value. When a woman hurts you and you keep chasing her, she learns she can treat you however she wants and still keep your energy. But when you ignore her, you teach a different lesson. I don't stay where I'm disrespected. That lesson cuts deeper than anger. At first, she might pretend she doesn't care. She'll act cold, detached, unbothered. She might even tell herself you'll come back eventually. But it's all ego defense, because deep down, she wants to know that she still has access to you. She wants to know you're still affected. She wants to know that no matter how she behaved, you'd still be there. When you're not, she loses the reaction that her ego relies on. And the mind starts asking questions it can't ignore. Did he finally see my behavior for what it was? Is he done with me? Is someone else giving him the attention I used to receive? The brain hates unanswered questions, especially the kind that challenge self-worth. And the more silent you are, the louder those questions become. Some women don't change until they realize the person they thought would never leave actually did. Not with drama, not with threats, not with guilt, just calmly, quietly, confidently gone. That's when she begins to rethink the moves she made, the things she said, the disrespect she showed. Because the absence of your energy creates space for her own reflection, and for many people, reflection is uncomfortable. She will try to convince herself that you'll eventually call. She will wait for that moment. But when hours turn into days, days into weeks, and there's still nothing from you, something she took for granted becomes something she suddenly wants back. Because losing someone who cared is one thing, but losing someone who cared and stayed silent is entirely different. Silence tells her you're not emotionally controlled by her anymore. Silence tells her your self-respect is stronger than your attachment. Silence tells her you moved on with dignity, not desperation. It forces her to see the one thing her ego never expected, that you don't need her to feel whole. And when that realization hits, that is when the power shifts. At first, she might tell herself you're just being stubborn or dramatic. She might think you're trying to teach her a lesson, and that eventually you'll break and reach out. But when you don't, when you stay quiet, steady, and unavailable, curiosity starts to grow. And curiosity, especially in someone who once had access to you, is dangerous. It starts small. A quick profile check, a glance at whether you viewed her story, a quiet hope that your name will appear in her notifications. But when there's nothing, when your silence stays consistent, the mind begins working overtime. Human psychology hates uncertainty, and silence creates uncertainty. She doesn't know what you're thinking, what you're feeling, or who else might be taking the space she once had. She can't guess your emotions because you've given her nothing to read. No texts, no calls, no reactions, no explanations. And the absence of information becomes the fuel for overthinking. Curiosity turns from a passing thought into a persistent question. Why isn't he affected? Because in her mind, she expected you to respond. She expected you to argue, to defend, to chase, to seek closure. Your silence denies her all of that. It denies her the emotional reassurance that she still has influence. Then her thoughts move deeper. If you're not messaging her, who are you talking to? If you're not watching her, who are you watching? If you're not reacting to her life anymore, whose life are you paying attention to? She starts imagining possibilities that weren't even real, and that's where obsession begins. She might start posting more, dressing differently, trying harder to look happy or desired, not because she's moved on, but because she wants you to notice. Silence makes her compete with a ghost, a version of you she can't see, predict, or control. Even the smallest actions from you become meaningful to her. If you post a story, she studies it. If you're active online, her mind races. If you look happy or unbothered, it hits her deeper than any apology or confrontation ever could. She wants to know what changed. She wants to know why you're suddenly out of reach. And the more she wonders, the more power shifts in your direction. Sometimes she'll even try indirect ways to get your attention, reacting to old posts, asking mutual friends about you, posting quotes that hint at regret, or suddenly showing interest in things she never cared about before. These aren't coincidences. They are attempts to pull you back without admitting she wants you back. Because if you come to her first, she keeps the upper hand. But if you stay silent, her curiosity becomes a quiet pressure she can't escape. And for some women, the fear isn't losing you. It's realizing someone else might appreciate what she dismissed. That's when jealousy creeps in. It's when imagination becomes anxiety. It's when she starts replaying things she said, decisions she made, moments she thought she had won. Silence gives her time to realize she may have overplayed her hand. See, you don't always need words to make someone regret losing you. Sometimes, mystery does the work. Sometimes, not knowing hurts more than knowing. Because she can't fix something she no longer has access to. And the more she can't reach you, the more she wants to. And the more she wants to, the more her ego and emotions start to collide. That collision is where curiosity becomes obsession. And obsession is where she finally realizes the silence she once ignored is now the silence she can't stop thinking about. A lot of women don't realize how much control they held in a relationship until it's gone. Sometimes it wasn't even intentional, just small habits of emotional inconsistency, mixed signals, hot and cold behavior, silent treatments, guilt trips, or playing the victim to avoid responsibility. These things only work as long as you react. The moment you stop responding, the entire power structure collapses. Because control doesn't exist without access, and when you ignore her, access disappears. People assume control is loud, dramatic, obvious, but emotional control is usually quiet. It sits in the moments where she knew a single message could pull you back, a single apology could reset your boundaries. A single "I miss you" could make you forget everything wrong. She knew what strings to pull, how to get a reaction, how to make you feel guilty, or how to keep you chasing a version of her that didn't really exist anymore. That's power, subtle, psychological, and effective, but only for as long as you play along. When you ignore a woman who hurt you, you stop playing, you stop feeding the cycle. The control she had wasn't in the relationship, it was in your response. The ability to shake your emotions, to get inside your mind, to appear and disappear whenever it suited her. But silence is a wall she can't climb. Suddenly she can't read you, she can't predict you, she can't trigger you. And that lack of control makes her uncomfortable in a way most people will never admit out loud. For the first time, she's forced to deal with something she didn't expect, you becoming immune. When you reach that point, you stop reacting not because you're hiding something, but because there's nothing left to react to. You're no longer emotionally available for her manipulation. You're done explaining things she already knows. You're done being the emotional punching bag or the backup option. That is when she realizes she lost control, not because you disappeared, but because you finally woke up. And this is the part most people won't tell you. When someone loses control over a person they once controlled, they panic. It might not look like panic sometimes. It looks like pride, denial, silence, or pretending they don't care. But inside, there's a discomfort that keeps growing. Because when someone was used to pulling your emotional strings, your silence is humiliating. It tells them they don't matter the way they used to. It tells them you're not waiting. It tells them they no longer influence how you feel. That's why some women start acting strangely when you ignore them. 1 minute, they're posting like they're living their best life. The next minute, they're indirectly trying to get your attention. Maybe they watch your stories, like old pictures, ask mutual friends about you, or pop up with a casual, "Hey," as if nothing happened. It's not affection, it's control trying to return. Even an apology can sometimes be less about regret and more about regaining emotional influence. But here's the truth. When a woman realizes she can't manipulate your emotions anymore, she has two choices: grow or disappear. Some will reflect, take accountability, and learn from it. Others will resent you for no longer being easy to control. Either way, your silence exposes the dynamic for what it really was. Walking away without reacting doesn't just protect your peace, it breaks the cycle. Because in the end, real control isn't about overpowering someone. It's about choosing yourself. And when you ignore a woman who hurt you, the message is simple. You can't play games with someone who stopped showing up to the field. Distance does something that arguments never could. When you're gone, she finally has to look at who you were in her life. Not who she assumed, not who she took for granted, but who you actually were. And for many women, that realization doesn't hit while you're still available. It hits when you're silent, when you're not reacting, when you stop showing up with the same energy you always gave. That absence forces her to see the value she didn't appreciate. Most men don't even realize how much they do until they stop doing it. The emotional support, the attention, the loyalty, the effort, the messages, the patience, these are all things she got used to. Maybe she thought it was guaranteed. Maybe she assumed you'd always be there waiting. Maybe she misread your kindness as weakness, or your loyalty as something she could treat carelessly without consequences. But ignoring her breaks that illusion. Suddenly, every small thing you used to do stands out because it's gone. She remembers how you listened when she vented, how you cared about the little things, how you checked on her day without expecting anything in return. She remembers how real your energy was, how genuine your intentions were, how consistent you tried to be even when she wasn't. That kind of presence doesn't come around often, and the moment she realizes other men don't give what you gave, the respect she never showed starts to grow in silence. And here's the thing. You didn't have to announce your absence. You didn't need to send a speech about how hurt you were. You didn't need to prove your worth. All you did was step back. And when someone finally sees the difference between your presence and your absence, they feel the loss more deeply than any argument or punishment could make them feel. People don't miss you when you leave. They miss you when they try to replace you and fail. They miss you when they realize the world outside isn't as loyal, patient, or honest as you were. They miss the version of themselves they were when they were with you. And when silence is what delivers that reality, it hits harder than any confrontation. She'll start replaying memories, not just the good ones, but the moments where she pushed you away, dismissed your feelings, or ignored your effort. It becomes clear that you weren't the problem she tried to make you feel like. You were the stability she didn't appreciate until it disappeared. And that's where regret starts. Not because you left, but because you didn't come back. Some women think respect is automatic. They think loyalty means unconditional tolerance. But your silence teaches a completely different lesson. Respect is earned, effort is a privilege, and a good man can disappear just as quickly as he appeared if he's taken for granted. That's when she understands that men like you don't come around twice, and even if she never says it, she feels it. That quiet regret shows up in small ways, a message she starts typing but never sends, old pictures she scrolls through, memories she didn't appreciate when they were happening. She won't say it out loud, but she knows the truth. She pushed away someone who would have given her the world, and instead of begging, you walked. The most painful part for her isn't losing you. It's realizing you were worth keeping, and that is the moment silence becomes the loudest thing she ever heard. Sometimes, the strongest thing a man can do is nothing at all. No chasing, no arguing, no proving, just silence, self-respect, and distance. Because the moment you stop showing up for someone who never showed up for you, your life changes. Your energy becomes yours again. Your mind becomes clearer. Your heart becomes lighter. And the obsession women have isn't about losing a man. It's about losing a man who finally learned his value. So if you're tired of being taken for granted, if you're done being a backup option, if you're ready to stop letting people treat you like you're disposable, then this is just the beginning. My channel was built for men who are done suffering in silence, men who want clarity, men who want confidence, men who want peace. So don't walk into your next relationship blind. Don't repeat the same mistakes. Don't let anyone play with your mind or your emotions again. If you're ready to become the strongest version of yourself mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, tap on my channel and watch the next video waiting for you there. Because the man you become from this point on will never beg to be valued again.